delegation of the government of Colombia and the National Liberation Army, ELN, closed the third cycle of the peace dialogue table in Havana, Cuba. Russian President Vladimir Putin acknowledged the start of the counteroffensive that Ukraine has been promising for months. Several people are wounded after revolt from the Al-Shabaab in Mogadishu. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Cuba, the delegation of the government of the Republic of Colombia and the National Liberation Army, ELN, closed the third cycle of the peace dialogue table in Havana. The ceremony was attended by the President of Cuba and Colombia, Miguel Díaz-Canel, and Gustavo Petro. Also present was Commander Antonio Garcia, head of the ELN. The negotiators of the Colombian government and the ELN signed the so-called Havana Agreements, which establishes the readiness for the participation of society and bilateral ceasefire in the whole Colombia geography on a temporary basis. They also agreed to the establishment of the fourth cycle of the dialogue table between the parties, which will be met in Venezuela between August the 14th and the 23rd, where a balance of the agreements adopted so far will be made. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez announced the agreement reached by the parties, including the temporary ceasefire on July the 6th, the approval of pending protocols, and a fourth round of talks in Venezuela on August the 14th.
With the announcement of this agreement, the parties began the process of readiness of this bilateral ceasefire from June 9 to July 5, 2023. A process of readiness will take place that includes, among others, the activation of a communication channel between the parties through the special representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations in Colombia, the readjustment of pending protocols, the start of educational activities, and preparation for the implementation of the monitoring and verification mechanisms. The order of the cessation of offensive operation by the parties will become effective on July 6, 2023.
After thanking those present, the accompanying countries and guarantors of the peace process in Colombia, Colombian President Gustavo Petro praised Cuba's role in the peace talks and criticized its inclusion in the list of countries that support terrorism because of this work.
I was telling President Biden now that I was in Washington that if there has been an act of injustice, it is the one proposed by the President of Colombia to a government of the United States in the sense of including Cuba in a list of what they call terrorist helpers, just because they generate the cycle space for a conversation between the ELN and the government that actually took place, but that was interrupted by the same government. It was an act of profound diplomatic injustice, at the time I call it a stab in the back.
At the closing ceremony of the third round of talks at the negotiating table between the Colombian government and the National Liberation Army, Chief Negotiator Jose Boti Patino, politician, analyst, and former guerrilla himself expressed confidence in the process.
I want to tell you that today is a very special day, and therefore we must acknowledge and give thanks to those that made it possible for us to reach this point, which is crucial in the development of this process. I'm truly grateful to you, President Petro, for your unwavering trust in the Colombian people despite difficulties and the faith embodied by the people, because other than these changes being absolutely necessary, now they start to think that they are actually feasible closer than ever, because the people believe in your leadership, as it was demonstrated this June the 7th.
The Cuban president acknowledged that his nation has faced greater challenges in the fulfillment of what has been agreed in the peace dialogue process, and emphasized that with much modesty, the Caribbean island has made its contribution to the achievement reached today. Diaz-Canel also points out that his government will never renounce its commitments.
If anything had distinguished Cuba's performance is the fulfillment of its commitments. You cannot ask Cuba for political impossibilities. You cannot demand that it violates protocols of agreements between the parties or that it fails to the pledged word in which the participant trusts. We will never give up the commitments made. With all modesty, we think that this has been a contribution of Cuba to what you have been able to achieve today, even though the price we pay for fulfilling what was agreed has been and still is high. We do not regret.
On Friday, the third cycle of peace talks between the Colombian government and the National Liberation Army concluded in Havana, Cuba.
Both delegations signed the so-called Cuba agreements, which establish a bilateral ceasefire throughout Colombia and prepare the grounds for the participation of society in the construction of peace.
We understand that this ceasefire, that basically has a humanitarian purpose, aims to reduce the intensity of the conflict so that there is a better atmosphere in Colombia for the participation of society in this peace process. We believe that this is one of the most important contributions of the agreements we have signed here.
The head of the Colombian government's peace delegation, Ottino Patino, said he was ready to face the challenges posed by the agreement.
This process must offer new beliefs and practices, new interpretations of the world from the point of view of defined peace, militant peace, peace as a daily right. I am not mentioning all the challenges, they are innumerable, but they are all worthwhile. We are ready to face them and to create a new era of peace, as our president has said.
The commander of the ELN, Antonio Garcia, highlighted the direction of the process with a view to next meetings.
The ELN's voice will be the voice of society. These will not be agreements between the government and the ELN. They will be agreements that society itself will draw up with the participation of everyone. We want to start this process by giving a voice to society in an exercise of participation and by trying to withdraw violence so that the voice can be heard more. And this is the message that the agreement conveys.
The President Gustavo Petro stressed the possibility of giving the Colombian people the hope for peace that has been built up during the dialogue process.
And then we come here in order to give hope to Colombia. And that is what we were elected for. What other sense can the possibilities for peace here have? That peace be built as a hope, increasingly linked, due to its revolutionary essence, to change.
For his part, the host, President Miguel Diaz-Canel, emphasized the opportunity that awaits the Colombian people following the achievements of this day.
We reaffirm that this is an exceptional opportunity that should not be missed to promote peace in Colombia. We encourage the parties to move forward and take advantage of this historic context with respect for our Colombian brothers. Sincerely, we ask you from Cuba, do not stop. Put your hearts into peace in Colombia. Thank you very much.
The final agreement provides a fourth cycle of the dialogue table to be held in Venezuela from August 14th to 23rd. This will be an opportunity to take stock of what has been agreed so far.
Let's take a very short break now, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin acknowledged the start of the counteroffensive that Ukraine have been promising for months. The Russian president stressed that Kiev troops have not reached targets anywhere on the front and highlighted the bravery and heroism of Russian soldiers and the correct organization of the forces. Putin also referred to the shocking Ukrainian casualties figures of the last day, which exceeds the usual level, and indicated the coup d'etat in 2014 as a source of powers of the Ukrainian regime.
We are seeing significant losses of troops from the Ukrainian regime. It is known that during offensive operations, losses are approximately 3 to 1. It is somewhat classic, but in this case, it significantly exceeds these classical indicators. Intense fighting, as I said, has been going on for 5 days. For example, yesterday and the day before yesterday, so the previous 2 days, they were very intense. But the enemy was not successful in any of the sectors.
On Friday, Russian Defense Minister spokesman Igor Konashenko said that the Ukrainian army is still trying to carry out offensive operations in the South Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia direction on Ukraine's southern front, where fighting escalated shortly this week in expansion of Major Kiev offensive.
Area of Premivka, units of the Eastern Grouping of Forces repelled 4 enemy attacks carried out by forces of up to 2 battalion tactical groups, reinforced with tanks in the areas of the settlements of Levadnoye in the Zaporizhzhia region, Novosilka, Storoshev, and Neskushne in the Donetsk People's Republic. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, decisive and thoughtful actions of Russian troops, airstrikes and artillery fire repelled 2 attacks by Ukrainian troops in the areas of the settlements of Novodanilovka and Malaya Tokmachka in the Zaporizhzhia region in the course of 24 hours. The southern grouping of troops successfully repelled 6 attacks by units of the 110th Mechanized, 59 Motorized Infantry and 79 Air Assault Brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the directions of the settlements of Khimik, Krasnogorivka, Pervomesky and the northern outskirts of Marinka of the Donetsk People's Republic. No weapon in our defense has been allowed.
Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the deployment of nuclear weapons in Belarus in July. The announcement was made on Friday during a meeting of Russian leaders with his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko in the city of Sochi. Putin said that the construction of the tactical nuclear weapons storage facility in the territory of Belarus is expected to be completed in July the 7th. The Russian Defense Ministry has already delivered to Belarus the Iskander missile system, which is a nuclear weapon carrier used to retrofit aircraft.
Regarding the most sensitive issues that we agreed on, everything is going according to plan. As you know, on July 7 or 8, the preparation of the relevant facilities will be completed, and we will immediately begin measures related to the deployment of the relevant types of weapons on your territory. So everything is going according to plan. Everything is stable.
You said it correctly, all according to plan. Back in Moscow, we agreed that we would cross paths at that time. For now, our prime ministers will work on this, and if any questions arise, after all, Belarusian-Russian relations at the core of the Russian Economic Union and the CIS. If there are any questions, we will respond. You will just be meeting with the prime ministers.
The Intergovernmental Council of the Eurasian Economic Union concluded in the Russian city of Sochi after intense days of work between the delegations of the member countries. After 2 days of sessions, the delegations considered 22 topics and signed 14 documents. In a communique, the head of government of the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union's report that they discussed the implementation of the first package of measures for cooperation among the Eurasian states in the framework of the climate agenda and the Union's digital agenda. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and join our Latin American alternative broadcast. We'll find a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Somalia's government authorities said a rebel from the Al-Shabaab group attacked a hotel in Mogadishu on Friday. According to the government statement, the attackers targeted a beach hotel often visited by officials. Several people have been reported injured in the incident. Al-Shabaab, which has been winging an insurgency against the internationally backed federal government for more than 15 years, claimed responsibility for the attack. Hotels has often been targeted in the past as they tend to host high-ranking Somali and foreign officials. The attack raised serious questions about the security forces who failed to protect a heavily guarded administrative district. In the framework of the World Ocean Day, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for strong actions to protect ocean from dismissing marine ecosystems.
The ocean is the foundation of life. It supplies the air we breathe and food we eat. It regulates our climate and weather. The ocean is our planet's greatest reservoir of biodiversity. Its resources sustain communities, prosperity, and human health around the world. Humanity counts on the ocean. But can the ocean count on us? We should be the ocean's best friend. But right now, humanity is its worst enemy.
Indonesia's Anak Krakatoa volcano erupted on Friday as it swept a column of ash more than 3 kilometers into the sky. Anak Krakatoa, which means Shoal of Krakatoa, spits thick ash over the strait that separates the islands of Java and Sumatra. There were no immediate report of damage or casualties after the eruption at 8:46 a.m. local time. The volcanic island emerged from the sea at the beginning of the last century from the crater formed after the 1883 eruption of the Mount Krakatoa, one of the deadliest and most destructive in history. The South African government sent on Friday firefighters to Canada to help fighting wildfires in the province of Alberta. The team of 200 firefighters and 15 managers from South Africa's Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment's working on fire program is expected to stay for several weeks to help battle the blaze. Large and more powerful wildfires than ever have surged millions of hectares of the Canadian forests and displaced tens of thousands of residents. In Cuba, local television reported on Friday that the heavy rains of the last few days in eastern and central Cuba have so far left one person dead, as well as flooding in different parts of the country. According to local television, the deceased by the drowning was a 60-year-old man from the municipality of Hiwani in the province of Granma, one of the territories most affected by the weather conditions. Although it is not yet possible to quantify the material damage, the greatest effects are reported in agriculture, electricity service, and housing, in addition to the fact that thousands of people have been evacuated. The Meteorological Center reporting important accumulation rainfall that expect 100 millimeters in several localities. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.